Le damos la bienvenida a nuestro invitado especial, Bill Adair.
Invitado especial, Bill Adair. Bill Adair es el creador del sitio web ganador del premio Pulitzer, PolitiFact, y ha sido reconocido como un líder en la conceptualización y creación de medios novedosos. Lanzó PolitiFact en el año 2007, convirtiéndolo en un importante esfuerzo de verificación, con afiliados en 11 estados. En 2013 gestionó la primera expansión internacional de la organización con el inicio de PolitiFact Australia. Adair es uno de los 25 coordinadores Knight de universidades en Estados Unidos, y sus investigaciones y docencia se enfocan en la verificación de hechos y nuevas formas de periodismo. Trabajó como reportero y editor en el Tampa Bay Times, anteriormente conocido como el St. Petersburg Times, durante 23 años, y fue director de la oficina en Washington de 2003 a 2013. Bill Adair ha dado charlas sobre la verificación de hechos y medios novedosos en conferencias y universidades en todo el mundo, incluyendo a TEDx Pointer, la Universidad de Harvard, la Universidad de Columbia, entre otras. Sus premios incluyen el premio Pulitzer por informes nacionales, el premio Manship por medios novedosos en discurso democrático y el premio Everett Dirksen por su cobertura sobre el Congreso estadounidense.
Bienvenido y muchas gracias por aceptar nuestra invitación.
Thank you very much. Miguel Cortez, President of Grupo Bolivar, members of the jury, Sylvia Martinez, Director of the Prize, members of the government, winners of the prize. Thank you so much for a wonderful welcome. It is a great honor to be here for the Simón Bolívar National Journalism Awards. For 43 years, these awards have recognized the best work by Colombian journalists, work that has required great skills, patience, and courage. This is a critical moment for journalism around the world when the path ahead seems uncertain. We lived through the dawn of the information age and saw the great promise of the internet, but it now feels like we're in a darker time. When I started PolitiFact in 2007, I was filled with hope about the digital revolution. There was a belief that the internet could make information more widely available, bring people together, and hold power accountable. But like many of you, I'm wondering if those hopes were misplaced. But we can't get despondent about how things have turned out. We need to reimagine our roles as journalists and harness the power of technology to combat misinformation. A little history. I started PolitiFact out of my own guilt. I had been covering the White House and Congress for the St. Petersburg Times, a Florida newspaper that is now called the Tampa Bay Times. I had grown tired of hearing politicians' false claims and felt I had been complicit by publishing them in my articles without scrutiny. The internet offered a new way for us to hold politicians accountable for what they said. So I went to my editors with a crazy idea. Instead of having me cover the 2008 campaign like all the other political journalists, how about if I started a fact-checking website? Sure, they said. In fact, they liked the crazy idea so much they let me start a team with some of the most talented reporters and editors at the paper. They also let us break the rules. We built our own content management system and took some bold steps that most newspaper editors would never allow. We invented the Truthometer, which rated politicians' claims from true to pants on fire. It made substantive articles about policy accessible to a wider audience. We created a unique form of journalism. Instead of publishing traditional articles, we published fact checks of politicians' statements in a new structured form that could be collected on report card pages and tallied to tell people how many true, half-true, or pants-on-fire statements a politician had earned, as Miguel pointed out. PolitiFact was truly new journalism in the internet age. A key to PolitiFact's success was the culture of my newspaper. My editors were not only willing to let me try my unusual idea, they encouraged that kind of creative approach in everything we did. They also had a deep commitment to accountability reporting. They believed, and they still believe, that holding power accountable is one of the fundamental missions of journalism. PolitiFact became part of a growing community that included factcheck.org and the Washington Post fact checker in the United States, Full Fact in Britain, and Chequeado in Argentina. The digital revolution made it all possible. I remember those early years as an exciting time filled with promise. It was the honeymoon for journalism on the internet, as reporters and editors around the world discovered we could use the web to do powerful, important things. News stories became interactive, enabling readers to engage with content. Data could be presented as vivid graphics that made numbers come alive, and design was transformed. I remember when we first saw Snowfall, the New York Times story about an avalanche, and we saw how the web could be used for powerful storytelling. Then came smartphones, which enabled our readers and viewers to get the news all the time, wherever they were, and use thousands of apps to read articles and watch videos and listen to audio. It seemed like the future was infinitely bright and there were great things ahead. But the honeymoon ended. The internet got loud and crowded. Partisan voices began to dominate the discussions, and people began shouting at each other in all capital letters. Twitter became a thing, but we realized that some of the people on Twitter weren't really human. They were bots, and they were programmed to inflate the partisan propaganda to drive apart the real people. Partisans took advantage of the internet to build digital fortresses where they could isolate themselves from opinions they disliked. They hid behind the walls and lobbed attacks against their enemies. These fortresses are home to more propaganda than discourse, and they provide refuge for the extremists. If you're inside one, your side is always right. The iPhone had changed the landscape when it was introduced in 2007. It created a whole new platform for apps, which offered promising new ways that people could connect. I remember when a friend in Chile showed me WhatsApp and how he used it to communicate with his friends and family. But it didn't take long for people who want to spread misinformation to discover they could use WhatsApp without getting much scrutiny from journalists. I know that here in Colombia, you saw lots of misinformation spread through WhatsApp about the peace deal in the 2016 election. Pablo Medina Urube, the editor of the fact-checking site Colombia Check, reminded me recently how WhatsApp is a fertile ground for falsehoods. People are more likely to believe WhatsApp messages because they're sent by people they know and trust. But the nature of many mobile data plans here give people unlimited data on WhatsApp and Facebook, but not for their internet browser or their apps. So, on a broad scale, what can we do? And more specifically, what can journalists and the tech community do? I think we need to find new ways to harness technology to get accurate information to people when they need it. We need to be as aggressive and shrewd as the people and groups who are spreading the misinformation, and we need to change our thinking. First, let's talk about the technology part. At Duke University, we've launched a project called the Tech and Check Cooperative that has a really ambitious goal: to use automation to monitor politicians' speeches and debates and provide live fact-checking sourced from existing fact checks. 5 or 6 years ago, I thought this kind of automated fact-checking was a long time away. But advances in technology and the dividends from a partnership that we started with Google have created remarkable momentum. So we have already created the first fact-checking app for the Amazon Echo. It's called Share the Facts. It lets you query Alexa and get an instant fact check. It's impressive. You can ask Alexa a question, and if the fact checkers have published something on it, she will reply telling you that the Washington Post or factcheck.org or PolitiFact have checked it and what they have concluded. We are now building a similar product for TV and the web. It's a much harder product to develop, but the idea is that when our app hears someone say a statement that the fact checkers have examined, the app will pop up a related fact check right on the screen of your smartphone or TV. We've made significant progress in the last 6 months. Over the summer, our students created a rough framework for the app that converts a live speech to text, then filters out sentences that are not checkable using our ClaimBuster tool, and then uses an algorithm to look for matches from our database of previously published articles. We are still some months away from a finished product, but we're getting closer every day. We also just completed the first user testing of instant fact-checking on television. We had people watch specially modified videos of State of the Union speeches that had pop-up fact checks. The viewers had helpful feedback for us about what they wanted on the screen, and they were unanimous about the concept. They all want real-time fact-checking on their TV. But you don't need an army of computer science students to create something valuable. We need more projects like the lie detector developed by La Silla Vacía here in Colombia, which pioneered fact-checking on WhatsApp. People send a screenshot of a message they would like checked, and then the journalists check it and encourage people to share it back through WhatsApp. But regardless of whether we're building big projects for a television screen or smaller ones for WhatsApp, it requires that we think differently about the role of a journalist. Most political reporters, and nearly all fact-checkers, have traditionally thought of themselves as neutral players in the political discourse. We published the information in the daily paper and left it on your doorstep, or we put it on a website or on the nightly news. We were passive. We left it up to you to seek out the information that you needed and draw any conclusions about the information on your own. I've been asked many times if it bothered me that politicians kept lying after we fact-checked them, and I would say, our job is just to provide the information. That strategy worked fine 10 years ago, but now politicians and propagandists have learned how to spread misinformation at light speed. We can no longer sit back and wait for readers to come to us. We must become more aggressive and take the facts to the people. We need to disrupt the lies. We can no longer be passive when our readers and viewers are being swamped with misinformation. We need to be more energetic and inventive in getting the information to people at the moment they first hear the claim. Some of these solutions will be high-tech, like the automated fact-checking apps we're building at Duke. Others can take more of a grassroots approach, like the WhatsApp lie detector developed by Lasija Vasia. We need all kinds of these efforts, big and small, simple and complex, to adapt how we provide information in these fast-changing times. We need to build new apps for your phone and create new ways to provide the facts while you're watching a speech on TV. And while print is still around, we should put the truth in ink and paper. Yes, the honeymoon for the internet is over, and it sometimes seems like we're in a dark time. But I'm encouraged by the progress we're making. I see promising efforts all around the world, and through it all, I see great spirit and creativity. The mission of the journalist remains the same: to give people the vital information they need to make sense of their world and hold their government accountable. We'll continue to do that. We'll just do it in new and creative ways. Thank you very much.